across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views, debate, fury and fun. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, November the 5th, Bonfire Night. Here's what's coming up. Shocking, astonishing, extraordinary. You struggle for words as, unbelievably, we learn that a second asylum seeker sex offender has been mistakenly released from jail. After the debacle surrounding Ethiopian paedophile Hadush Kubatu 2 weeks ago, it now emerges that 24-year-old Algerian Ibrahim Kadour Sharif was wrongly freed from Wandsworth Prison last Wednesday. Still at large, he's on the sex offenders register after being convicted of indecent exposure a year ago, but was actually put behind bars for the crime of trespass with intent to steal. Sounds like a great guy, doesn't he? This latest stupefying slice of epic incompetence came to light today in Parliament when Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge humiliated hapless Justice Secretary David Lammy while they were both stand-ins at Prime Minister's questions. Lammy characteristically ended up looking like a blustering, buffoonish fool. Meanwhile, just for bad measure, on Monday, another prisoner, fraudster Billy Smith, was also accidentally let out of Wandsworth. What the hell is going on? 03444 499 1000. Incredibly, and also inevitably, that idiot Lammy blamed the Tories. You left us with a message. No. This isn't the Tories' fault, Lammy. It's your fault. And if you had any integrity, you resign for being quite so utterly useless. In other news, we continue our series featuring the amazing revelations of former asylum seeker hotel manager Adam, who, in a few minutes you'll hear, tell Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott about the day a Kurdish migrant confessed to killing his wife and fleeing his country to escape justice. When Adam reported this, bosses told him not to worry, the guy was a crazy man. But was he? Adam's story shines a harsh light on the burning question. Who are these people that we just allow into our country and then let stay? 0344 499 1000. I should say, let's stay at our expense. We pay for them. We pay for their hotels, we pay for their food, we pay for their doctors, their dentists, their lawyers, and so on and so forth. Who are they? What have they done before they came? We don't know. It's unbelievable. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, calls for heads to roll are reaching a crescendo as the scandal of the BBC's flagship show, Panorama, doctoring a Donald Trump speech to make it look as if he was calling for violent insurrection, reaches crisis point. This calamity has plunged our scandal-prone state broadcaster into the biggest scandal of them all. After Hugh Edwards, Gary Lineker, the deceitful Gaza documentary, Bob Villan at Glastonbury, and now this. How much longer can dismal Director General Tim Davies survive? Surely this 5-time loser has to go. 0344 499 1000. Plus, the Islamification of Birmingham ahead of tomorrow's massive pro-Palestine march. The primary school that banned all of its kids from putting pork into their packed lunches. Why all of them? 0344 499 1000. And I'll ask why Marks and Spencer has retained Dawn French for the store's Xmas TV commercial after she caused such widespread offence with her anti-Israel social media post. Following that horror, is the Vicar of Dibley veteran really still a firm favourite? I don't think so. Marks and Spencer, I think you got the wrong woman. 03444991000. Also, New York has a new Muslim mayor. Defund the police communist Zoran Mamdani, who doesn't want to send anyone to jail. What can possibly go wrong? We in London, New Yorkers, our message to you. We've got Sadiq Khan. We feel your pain. We know your pain. 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together. Welcome to the show to our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. There she is. Hello, Isabel.
Good evening. Well, another day of total chaos and shambles in the good ship Britain.
It's unbelievable because you brought us this, Adam, your Asylum Seeker Hotel former manager turned whistleblower, as 3 days in a row. We've run sections of your incredible interview with him, and if anything, today's is almost the most alarming, I think, where he's talking more and more about these people that he was in charge of in his hotel, and it emerged slowly to him that we don't know anything about these people, and when he was told by a Kurdish migrant, I came here to escape justice because I killed my wife, he took that to the authorities, to the bosses, if you like, who told him, oh, don't worry about him, he's a crazy man. But was he? Is he? Do we know that? Now, we put this to the Home Office at 10 a.m. this morning, and they've just sent us a message implying that we've been irresponsible for not giving them enough information with enough time. Well, I think they know what they can do with that response. We'll talk about that in a little while. And of course, Isabel, we need to talk about this unbelievable new revelation that a second asylum seeker sex offender has been accidentally, mistakenly released from jail. David Lammy's performance in the Commons was lamentable. Now, I'd assumed that James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary, had skillfully ambushed him. I know something you don't know. He kept asking him, can you assure us that after Hadish Kabatu 2 weeks ago that no more asylum seeker offenders have been accidentally, mistakenly released from jail? Now, when Lammy 5 times blustered and like a buffoon. Oh, I've never, it's the Tories, you left us this, I've never seen 25 years, I've made an absolute fool of himself. I assumed he doesn't know. Cartledge knows something he doesn't know, and this is a skillful ambush. But it turns out that Lammy did know. He'd been told the night before. This was his way, his useless, hapless way of trying to get the government out of trouble. Don't answer the question. 5 times Cartledge asked him about this released prisoner, and 5 times Lammy didn't answer. I mean, what goes on in that head of his? I mean, clearly it's not sort of bothered by too much of a large brain, but what on earth was he thinking? He's absolutely humiliated the government today. A straight answer would have been much more beneficial to Labour. Absolute idiot, that guy. He's got to go. He really has. But before we get to that, let's play the next instalment of your excellent interview with asylum seeker hotel whistleblower Adam.
My name's Adam. I'm 32 years old, and I've worked in a migrant hotel from 2021 until 2024.
How, were they migrants, the service users, were they required to clean their own hotel rooms? How did that work?
So they initially were to clean their own bedrooms. So every day they could sign out some cleaning equipment and to clean the rooms. So again, everyone that you can't group them all together. So big variation. So some of the guys, especially the Persian Christians, they took good pride in their bedrooms and the bathrooms. They were spotless. We had other asylum seekers who would refuse to do it. They say, I don't clean toilets. So they would refuse to clean it at all. Bathrooms, toilets, would refuse to do it, up to the point where we had cockroaches in rooms.
Wow. Where
we actually had to get him professionally fumigated. We had a guy from Mauritania, and he he said after he'd been here a few months, he said the area he was in was too quiet because it was in the Manchester Cheshire, like literally on the border. And he asked to move hotels, and he said, well, it doesn't work like that. You don't just get to choose. So one day he actually spray painted his entire room. He got a kind of green spray paint. He spray painted the TV, the walls, all the lampshades, etc. He got arrested. I don't know if he got done for criminal damage, etc. He had another service user. We had paintings of bottles of wine in all the bedrooms. He actually smashed all the paintings because alcohol is forbidden in his culture, so he smashed all the paintings. We had a gentleman who was a Kurdish national. He was a Mr. And he used to drink heavily. He used to sit outside in the car park just drinking vodka. And anyway, obviously you get to know them. So I think I was litter picking outside with a colleague.
Right.
And I said, "Are you okay?" He's like, "No, I'm sad." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "I miss my home country." I was like, "You're Kurdish, yeah, Kurdistan." He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, why did you leave Kurdistan?" Because we all spoke to him. We all wanted a reason of why have you come here?
Yes.
And he was going. He was thinking. One day he goes, "I had an argument with my wife. I'd been drinking heavily." He said, "I killed her." He says, "Killed her with my hands." And he goes, and then I didn't want to get caught, so I had to leave the country, and I'm here. And me and my colleague just looked at each other and we were like... So we went straight to the Serco office and said what we heard, and they said, "Don't listen to him, he's a crazy man." And I was like, "Oh yeah, of course he's crazy." And he said, no, he just makes up stories. As he made up any other stories. He went, "Oh no, but I don't believe him."
Do you believe him?
I reckon so. Yeah, he was a tormented man. He actually got kicked out of the hotel for smoking in his room and smoking marijuana. He was on a lot of medication, so maybe so. I reckon he was capable. As being the services manager, I was one of the main points of call for Serco. So if we had any arrivals, departures, etc., they used to come to me. So I spoke to the Serco officers. He goes, "Adam," he goes, we've got a gentleman coming from a hotel, from another hotel." He goes, "Egyptian guy." He says, "Just be careful." I went, "Well, what do you mean be careful?" He goes, "He's been kicked out of 5 hotels." He says, "This is his 6th hotel." I was like, what do you mean 5 hotels? What's he done? And he says, just drug dealing, and he was trying to touch the female members of staff, he was trying to put the hand up the skirt and stuff, and he was saying it just like it was a minor thing.
Wow.
So, but I said, well, if it's been kicked out of 5 hotels, can we just not house him? We deport him? And he says, "Oh no, unless his asylum while his asylum case is being processed, we've still got to legally house him." So this guy came, and again he was drug dealing in the hotel, and he only lasted about a month. So
there's been quite a lot of reports in the media about asylum seekers getting priority treatment, whether it's the NHS or opticians or whatever it may be, and sort of this and that perks. What did you observe? Yeah, so healthcare was probably the main perk and benefit that they got there. So when COVID was around, we actually had an on-site nurses doing COVID jobs. So they actually set up a COVID job place in the restaurant. A couple of other times we had opticians coming in as a drop-in centre for anyone who wants an eye test. So there not many that took them up on the offer. So I actually bobbed into the office where the optician was there. I thought, yes, I'll see if he wants a coffee. I said, "I don't want to brew anything, I want a coffee." He declined. So I said, "How many have you done?" And he says, "Oh, I've only done 7. I've not been here 3 hours." He goes, "Not much, not really see anyone come in." I says, "Oh, well, why are you doing nothing?" I said, "I've got 20 minutes. I was like, "You mind if you do an eye test for me?" I said, "I'm not doing about 5 years." And he was like, he looked down at his paperwork. He goes, "The thing is, it's for asylum seekers only. I can't really do that for you." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's just an eye test. I'm not taking anything while you're here." But he actually declined to do it for me, even though he was sat there twiddling his thumbs because I wasn't an asylum seeker. They were able to get taxis for any medical appointments, whether this be
1 mile or 80 miles. So if they had a doctor's appointment, dental, or they had to go to the hospital, they would get a taxi to there and taxi back. I've got a strong inkling that it was abused from time to time. So the closest hospital to my hotel was the Manchester Royal Infirmary, and that is a 8-minute walk from a place called Rusholme, or the Curry Mile for people that don't know it. So that's full of Middle East and North African restaurants, shisha bars, dessert cafe shops, etc. So that's where a lot of these gentlemen go. And they used to, I don't know whether they used to trick Serco or they did it on their own back. They would request a taxi to the hospital, jump outside the hospital, and then do the 8-minute walk to Rusholme to spend the time there, and then do the same back. So basically, they would get a paid taxi for a day out or a night out. Some of them had a genuine claim. There are genuine refugees. I spoke to a Syrian pharmacist, and this was at the time where Syria was controlled by 3-4 different regions. Anyway, the region he was in, I think it was done by the rebels, but he was in support of the government. Anyway, he said he was speaking to the government, giving them information. He went into the main city for supplies. He left his wife and kids in the pharmacy. Well, when he came back, his pharmacy had been blown up. His wife and 3 kids had died. Wow. And they knew because he was after him, speaking to the government. So that's why he came over to the UK. So he had a genuine claim. He could see that he had pain behind his eyes. You know, he was a broken man. And, you know, we did feel sorry for him. And he never complained once. He never complained. He was thankful. He was grateful, etc. However, a couple of the other gentlemen we had a gentleman from Namibia. And he was loud and brash. He treated it like a holiday, it was actually Serco who told me this. His claim got rejected at first, and they said, "What was his claim?" And he said, he's from Namibia. He said he had a car crash in Namibia, and whenever he drives on Namibian roads, he gets PTSD. Right. So that's why he's come to the UK, and he was actually successful on appeal. We had that. And we had a lot of gentlemen who say they were gay. Right. So you would get 2 mates come together and they would say, we live in a Muslim country, Egypt, Syria. We're gay. We're not gay together, but we're persecuted. So they would say they're gay. There's not much way to prove it. But then they would say to me, we've got wives back home. Or they would go out into Manchester and they're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for an English girlfriend. But a lot of the gentlemen they have, it's stories. I've got a vlogger. I've still got him on Instagram. He's also from Egypt. He's got 35k followers. His reason, I don't think he put it on his paperwork, but he says he wants to travel more countries for his vlog, and he can get cheap Ryanair flights from the UK.
Well, welcome back. Well, let's go. I should say, right. Well, let's bring Isabel back in because I think she should hear the Home Office response here. Now, we put in, obviously, it's very serious claims and allegations that Adam's been making there, particularly the one about the Kurdish guy who said, well, I killed my wife. Now, Adam did the responsible thing and went to the Serco bosses. Serco run the hotel and said, we might have a problem here. He says he's killed his wife. He says he was told, don't worry, he's just a crazy man. Well, is he? Was he? And it begs the question, who are all these people we are letting in? We don't know anything about them. He's got a litany of stories here. The Turkish guy who kept groping female staff and dealing drugs. The other one, the Mauritanian who vandalised his room to be moved. The sort of violent and dangerous people that seem to be sometimes inhabiting these hotels. So the main important allegation was the murder confession. We went to the Home Office at 10 a.m. this morning, gave them all the information, including the guy's name, and they said they were on the case. This is their response. It is deep. This, by the way, this is the response that came from the Home Office 1 hour ago. So that's just after 6 o'clock. So what is that? More than 8 hours after we put this inquiry into them this morning, they send us back this. It is deeply disappointing and irresponsible that talkTV failed to provide the Home Office with the information required to verify these allegations. 8 hours. And that's what they came up with. So, thank you very much, Home Office. Given your unsatisfactory response, we elected to run this story. But shocking, a shocking story from Adam there, particularly about the Kurdish man who said, I came here to escape justice because I killed my wife. As I say, Isabel, it just begs the question, the burning question, who are all these people that we let in and put into these hotels?
Well, I think the Home Office response just casts a light on how little they know about the people that we're bringing in. I mean, is it the case that there were so many people of that nationality and that name at that hotel that they can't possibly work out which one might have been a wife murderer? It is extraordinary that it's, that caused so little stir or record keeping by the various agencies involved, in particular Serco. You would have thought the Home Office could have had a conversation with Serco about this. Did they have any record of it? Or is this just a kind of shrug everyday event in our asylum hotels that, some bloke or other is saying, oh, actually, I'm pretty sad today because I left my country because I murdered somebody. I mean, it doesn't seem to have been that big a deal.
Exactly right. But what I would also say, what I thought was really poignant about that slice of your excellent interview with Adam was that he revealed himself not to be some kind of manic migrant hater, some sort of, xenophobe, talking very sympathetically about the very real cases of hardship and tragedy.
Yes.
That forced these poor people to end up, stuck in a hotel in Manchester, from their home country, like the pharmacist whose entire family got blown up. So, I just thought throughout these 3 evenings of Adam's interview, he proved himself to be, a decent, credible human being who was just telling a story that concerned him and should concern all of us.
I think that's right. I too found him to be a very credible source. This is somebody who actually really enjoyed the relationship that he built up, the friendships he built up with genuine asylum seekers who were very respectful and were grateful to the British people for the refuge that we're all paying for. But what is so concerning is that so many of the other revelations that he brought forward show just how many flaws there are in the system. And the idea that we're granting leave to remain to a Namibian who claimed to be suffering from PTSD because he had a car crash in Namibia and doesn't like driving on Namibian roads. I mean, it just brings the whole system into disrepute, doesn't it? The idea that these asylum seekers are being given free eye tests, and yet Adam there wasn't allowed an eye test, even though the optician was sitting there twiddling his thumbs. It just is everything that British taxpayers feel so sort of repelled by.
And so worth pointing out that the sort of headline of what we learned from Adam today is, yes, these hotels have got lots of genuine cases, people who've suffered tragedy and horror, but clearly they're also full of complete grifters, liars, people pretending they're gay when they're not just to get asylum, and so on and so forth, murderers perhaps, violent drug dealers, and so on and so forth. So excellent series of interviews there, Isabel, but because of time and because we've got a lot to get through, we'd better go straight to break. I just want to say one last thing. The Home Office, 8 hours for this. It is deeply disappointing and irresponsible that talkTV failed to provide the Home Office with the information required to verify these allegations. We gave them the name of the hotel and we gave them the name of the alleged murderer. Let me give a message to the Home Office. It is deeply disappointing that you took 8 hours to come up with this pathetic statement that doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Do your job better. Let's go to break. When we come back, talking of not doing your job well, let's discuss the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy.
Muslims, we can't be anti-Semitic. Did you know that? Because
well, no offense, not you, but a lot of your Muslim friends, I think.
Our prophet was a Semitic.
So you're telling me that Muslims cannot be anti-Semitic? That it's part of your sacred creed?
Muslims cannot be against any religion. We are taught to coexist with peace and harmony with every religion.
Well, it's not really working out, is it? Particularly, shall we say, in Gaza.
Why not?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, we need to talk about David Lammy. We need to talk about this latest calamity from Calamity Lammy. This is unbelievable. It's can it be? Just over 2 weeks ago, we learned that the Ethiopian paedophile sex offender, a asylum seeker resident at the Epping Bell Hotel, the notorious Bell Hotel in Epping, that the scene of all those protests from local residents. He's the guy who assaulted 2 women locally, one of them just 14 years old, gets a year in jail, sent to Chelmsford. I think it was 2 Fridays ago we learned that he'd mistakenly been released, despite 5 times trying to get back into jail. Then said, "Get out, go away. I think this is a mistake. Go away. There's the station. Go away." Gets to London, goes to a police station and said, "I think they let me out accident. Get out of here." So he was free to walk the streets for 3 ridiculous days before finally being reported and scooped up, as it were, and then deported back to Ethiopia, where we can all rest easy that he's a free man, no doubt, sexually harassing poor Ethiopian women. So there you go. So that was then, and you thought, well, God, what a disaster. Well, just unbelievably, shockingly, astonishingly, it's only gone and happened again. They've done it again. This time, an Algerian guy called Ibrahim Kadur Sharif was wrongly freed from Wandsworth Prison in South London last Wednesday and remains at large. He was actually in jail for trespass and intent to steal. But he's a convicted sex offender who previously, a year ago, was done for exposing himself. So he's on the sex offenders register. So it's nice to know that he's out there wandering the streets. Just incredible. And by the way, it turned out today that another guy has also accidentally been released from Wandsworth. This was just on Monday, a guy called Billy Smith. He's a fraudster. So they're letting them out left, right and centre. But another asylum seeker sex offender is out on the streets after mistakenly being released. David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, was standing in for Tutia Keir today at Prime Minister's Question Time, and his opposite number, again standing in for Kemi Badenoch, was James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary. James Cartledge asked him 5 times, "Can you assure us that after the mistaken release of Hadush Kabatu 2 weeks ago, that no other asylum seeker prisoners have been mistakenly released?" There followed a scene of high farce, of sick comedy, as this idiot Lammy chose to pretend that he sort of didn't know. But apparently he did know. He thought that the best way to put the government in a good light here was not to, quite straightforwardly say, well, yeah, there has been another really terrible release, which would have been the best thing to do. Instead, we got this. Watch this.
Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Let me just remind him that he was a justice minister that allowed our prisons to get to this state in the first place.
I'm going to ask him the question again. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
Mr. Speaker, he's the Justice Secretary. He's responsible for the justice system. He needs to take responsibility, and I'm asking him a straight question. And I'm going to repeat it once more for the avoidance of doubt, because he didn't answer it twice. He's here to answer questions. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a clear question. Can he give an answer?
Deputy Prime Minister. Get a grip, man. I know I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister. We know that.
People in Epping and right across the country want to know the answer, Mr. Speaker. So I'm going to ask him again. He's the Justice Secretary. Can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
I have answered the question. Under their watch, prisons were in a mess.
I'm putting to him a very clear question about his responsibilities. I repeat, can he reassure the House that since Kabatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
In 25 years in this House, I've not witnessed a more shameful spectacle, frankly, than what the party opposite left in our justice system. Their criminal negligence on his watch as a former justice minister.
Can you believe that, Isabel? I mean, I at first thought that Lammy didn't know, that Cartledge knew something he didn't know, but apparently he knew last night. That was his idea of how to keep the government in a good light, by just blustering like a big fat buffoon, which is exactly what he looked like. It was just pathetic, pathetic. I suspect, or I suggest, that the Deputy Prime Minister, the Secretary of State for Justice, looks for a new career, the key phrase in which would be, would you like fries with that? I mean, for God's sake, what was that all about?
Well, those were extraordinary scenes in the Commons today. I was also watching it, and I thought it was clear that the Tories knew something, and they were desperately trying to paint him into a corner. And it was obvious to me by his non-answer of the question that he couldn't possibly give that reassurance, because there was every chance that another one had been let out, and so it proved. You know, I thought he was very brazen. You've been a bit ruder than I will be, but I mean, for him to shout, "Get a grip, man," at the Tory spokesman there, it's very unparliamentary language, if I put it diplomatically. I'm surprised he didn't get told off by the Speaker for that. And, you know, he just decided to kind of fight fire with fire. When the truth was, he was absolutely on the back foot. And you know what I'm thinking as I sit here now? I'm thinking that it is a sorry reflection of the decline in standards in public life that David Lammy is not under pressure, real pressure, to resign over this chaos. Because, you know, I look back to my early years as a political reporter, and ministers had to resign for an awful lot less than the accidental release of criminal asylum seekers and sex offenders into our society. And these days it seems that the threshold for taking accountability and responsibility is ever so much higher than it ever used to be.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, we need to get a grip of this. This is week in, week out. Keir Starmer's a shocker for it. The people at the dispatch box, particularly in PMQs, Prime Minister's Question Time, are asked straight questions and don't answer them. The public are sick and tired of it. That was an egregious display of this syndrome. You know, when he, what was it, the fourth time? I've answered the question. That's exactly, Lammy, what you have not done. And I just think the public deserve better than that shambolic performance. And let's actually talk about the shambles itself. How can this keep happening? I mean, I think we can see, since there was a fraudster accidentally let out on Monday. So this asylum seeker sex offender was let out accidentally last Wednesday. 2 Fridays before that, Hadush Kabatu, the paedophile sex offender asylum seeker, was accidentally let out. And then we discovered that this Monday, just 2 days ago, a fraudster, a guy called Billy, what's his name? Billy Smith, is it? He was let out as well. So I think to be fair, well, that's not really to be fair. As a matter of fact, it's just coincidental that the people that they happen to be letting out happen to be asylum seekers. That puts it in an even worse light. The fact they're sex offenders makes it even worse. But clearly, there's a real problem in our prisons. Prisons are letting out people accidentally at an alarming rate. I believe last year the tally was 266. Well, that's not far off one a day, is it? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, this is actually, I hadn't realised that this was a thing. I mean, I didn't realise that I knew our criminal justice system was utterly dysfunctional, that our prisons were so overflowing, including with a very large number of foreign nationals clogging up places that we clearly need for others. I knew all of those things. I didn't realise that the system was so dysfunctional that we routinely, that the powers that be in prisons routinely just release people who are not supposed to have been let out. It's extraordinary. I'm very glad this has come to light in a way, but I suspect that there are serious questions to answer in a number of agencies as to why this is going on. And ultimately, Lammy needs to take responsibility. It may well be. I'm sure it was also a problem under the last Tory government, but the problem is his now, and just pretending it isn't so isn't going to get him off the hook.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, what goes through Lammy's head that he thinks that the way out of this tricky situation for him and for the government is to sort of somehow bluster his way through and pretend it's not happening? You know, it doesn't behove the government at all well, does it? I mean, this guy, Lammy's not up to the job, is he?
Well, this is just another incident of a very senior Labour politician just refusing to answer questions in a way that, as you said, voters absolutely hate. I mean, we had it so spectacularly yesterday morning when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, addressed the nation, basically warning us all that we can all expect a clobbering at the next budget, and refused to give a straight answer to a straight question, which is, are you going to put up income tax and break your manifesto pledge? And all she could say was, well, you'll have to wait and see till my budget. Well, why give a speech like that if you're not going to answer a straight question? We all know now, we know enough that when they don't answer the question, we can all put the worst possible interpretation on that omission.
And I just think that the rules of the House should be changed. Old Lindsay Hoyle, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, is very fond of sort of stepping in and saying, don't be quiet, I'm going to have to expel you. I'm going to tell the member one more time to stop making that racket and all this kind of stuff. Fine, keeping order, that's okay. But also, surely he should be empowered to step in and say, Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Lammy, you've been asked a very straight question. I'm going to have to require you to answer it.
It's a really interesting point. I mean, I think there'd be huge resistance. I think
on the
MPs
part of these squirming, lying politicians. But never mind them. What about the people? This Parliament is supposed to serve us. I think that Sir Lindsay Hoyle should be empowered in a circumstance like we've just seen to tell Lammy, come on, that's 5 times. It's a very straight question. Yes or no. No more obfuscating. You see what I mean?
I 100% see what you mean. I think it would probably require some kind of hideous legal change in the powers of the Speaker that no MPs are going to vote for. But I agree with you. You know, how nice it would be if there was a kind of adjudicator could say, come on, this is ridiculous. You know, as you and I would say if we were interviewing politicians on talk. You know, we would keep going, wouldn't we? We wouldn't let them get away with it. But anyway, I think everyone's intelligent enough to see what his refusal to give that assurance meant, which was that he basically knew that there had been such cases, or was very likely that there would have been. Yeah.
So it's about all these politicians, the front benches, you know, the Prime Minister and all that. If my proposal was put to them, what you mean? If we're asked a straight question, we have to tell the truth? No, we can't have that. Oh, no. That is their ethos, isn't it? It's just a ridiculous thing. They live in a world. God knows what planet they think they're on. Who do they think they're kidding? What is the point? What's the point of that charade? How is the nation served? How are we voters served by that absurd obfuscation by Lammy? How are we served by that? We are being betrayed and let down by this nonsense, and I think you know, it would be nice, I know I'm being idealistic, that if politicians could start being a bit straighter with each other and straighter with us, the people who voted for them in terms of this government, the people who made the massive mistake of voting for them. Let's go to break and let's talk about the BBC next, Isabel.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about I'm still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakshott. We need to talk about the BBC. This is a very, very serious crisis. We have a Director General, Tim Davie, who earns about £545,000 a year. He has presided over scandal after scandal after scandal, from Gary Lineker, the various social media posts ending in his anti-Semitic social media post, Hugh Edwards, the astonishing saga of the lead anchor who turned out to be a paedophile, of course the Gaza documentary that failed to mention that the teenage narrator host was the son of a Hamas government minister. And of course, Gaza, the Glastonbury, the Bob Villan debacle, and now this, and on it goes. So this is like 5 serious scandals. This is the worst. The President of the United States has been seriously defamed by the BBC's flagship programme, Panorama. Who is responsible, we're not quite sure, but this went out last October. This was a programme that went out last October, and it turns out that, guess what? A video of him making his speech, his famous speech on 2021, January the 6th, when he claimed he'd had the election stolen from him when Biden actually won. It made it look as if Trump was saying to the crowd, get up to Capitol Hill, let's insurrection, violently assault that building. He did nothing of the type. They just made it look as if he did that. So whoever's responsible, has done something really terrible to the president of our greatest ally. In other words, they abducted his speech to make it look as if he called for the violent assault on Capitol Hill. He did nothing of the sort. In actual fact, he did quite the reverse. Now, this must surely mean that Tim Davie, the calamitous Director General, who just presides over one long procession of scandals, this must be the straw that breaks the camel's back. This time, surely he has to go. Meanwhile, I would suggest this might be the end of the line, or it should be the end of the line, for the £431,000 a year head of news at BBC, Deborah Turness, who thought there was a distinction between the political and military wings of Hamas. She's not exactly across her brief for a kick-off. She has presided over the BBC News Department's atrociously biased coverage of the Gaza conflict, pro-Palestine, anti-Israel. Both of these people have to go this time, don't they? Kemi Badenoch leading the charge, saying heads must roll, usually in times of great crisis at the BBC, the state broadcaster that we pay for. Deputy heads roll. This time, senior heads have to go. I think Davie and Turness must surely go.
I mean, this is, I think, the most serious scandal to hit the BBC for a very long time. I mean, the Hugh Edwards scandal is of a very different nature, and I think we were talking about this last night. This is about the integrity of the BBC's journalism, around which many questions are regularly raised about institutional left-wingery, and in particular over the Israel-Gaza conflict. We've seen an awful lot of sort of suspicious bias, really, in my opinion. But this is really, really serious. You can't deny this one. I mean, it's just right there, isn't it? It's not something that the corporation can, David Lammy-style, bluster its way out of. I would just like to know exactly how it happened. I'm intrigued. Who actually did this? Because of course it wasn't Tim Davie or the head of news. This would have happened much lower down the food chain. And it's fascinating to know, who was in on the conspiracy, how many people were involved. I have some sort of sympathy, I suppose, for those at the top, because they would surely have had no idea whatsoever that this was being done. But what processes failed for this to have happened? I mean, this was quite a sort of seminal speech. So how wasn't it checked by multiple people when the final kind of cut of Panorama was put together?
Yeah, I mean, who actually did it is intriguing. But the point is, the BBC have known about this for a long time. This was a programme, Panorama show, called Trump, A Second Chance. It was broadcast on the 28th of October last year, so just over a year ago. It was made for the BBC by a company called October Films Limited. Now, a former journalist, a guy called Michael Prescott, was on the BBC's Editorial Guidelines and Standards Committee. And he alerted the BBC to this some time ago and said, you've got to do something about this. This is serious. And was essentially ignored. And so he's quit and he's made this, he's resigned in fury, and he's made this public. And the BBC now are landed, I think, as you quite rightly say, with their biggest scandal so far. This is very serious. Now, Donald Trump, when America's answer to Panorama, 60 Minutes show goes out on CBS, when they doctored Kamala Harris to make her look better than she was and make him look worse than he was, he sued them and won $16 million. He will sue Panorama, he will sue the BBC, which will plunge it into an even bigger mess than it's in now. At least I predict he will. I just think that there's a sort of sick culture of BBC, a self-satisfied culture, whereby they check their own facts with themselves. BBC Verify. It's got a wage bill of more than £3 million a year. It's got 61 staff working there. And so basically the BBC says, oh yeah, we checked it with Verify. Well, BBC Verify's got quite a long list of getting things wrong. Its most famous thing was an agricultural assessment, I think it was of the EU, where they said, yeah, here's the facts. Well, the trouble was they confused hectares with acres, and therefore they were completely wrong. There are many other examples where they haven't exactly been bang on. So it's this self-satisfied belief in their own, beauty that is at the root of the cause. Very quickly, this is it for Davey, isn't it?
Well, you'd like to think so, though Teflon Tim seems to get away with an awful lot, doesn't he?
Not this time, I don't think. Listen, Isabel, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for this brilliant interview. We're going to go to break now. Back in just a little while, straight after the news with Jake Wallace-Simons. Stick around.
one of the candidates, Donald Trump, to make out that he said something which he did not say. That is outrageous. And when that is pointed out by someone whose job it is to look for that kind of malfeasance within the BBC to the chairman, they don't even get a reply. I mean, it's shocking, and yet somehow, you know, we've seen this kind of bias in the BBC. You might touch on the Hamas story as well.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is breaking news. The Lib Dems, the Tories and Reform UK have all joined forces to demand that Parliament's recess must be cancelled so that David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, can return to the Commons to address the mistaken release of two prisoners, one of which, of course, was a asylum seeker sex offender. He's still both of them are still at large. The asylum seeker sex offender was released, Algerian he is, mistakenly last Wednesday. The Lib Dems, Reform UK and Conservative Party all demanding that David Lammy returns to Parliament, that recess is cancelled. Reform UK questioning whether David Lammy, you just saw his performance at the dispatch box where he refused to respond to James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary's questions. Have you accidentally let out another asylum seeker. He kept saying, can you assure us that Hadush Kabatu, the Ethiopian you let out from Chelmsford 2 weeks ago, that's the last of them? He didn't answer that question. Reform UK are suggesting that David Lammy deliberately withheld information from MPs about the prison release. I mean, he certainly kept it a secret, didn't he? He didn't want to tell us. So, breaking news. All three opposition parties, if you like, Reform UK, not often you see Reform UK join forces with the Lib Dems, but it's happened, and the Tories. Tories, Reform UK and Lib Dems all demanding that recess, parliamentary recess, which is about to happen, be cancelled, and that David Lammy be recalled to the chamber, to the Commons, to explain what the hell was going on in Prime Minister's question time today when he refused to answer a straight question: has another asylum seeker, sex offender, been released? The answer, of course, was yes. We can't really have that kind. So I was saying to Isabel Oakeshott just now, that kind of deception is a deception of our representatives in the House of Commons. So in other words, the Deputy Prime Minister is deceiving the public, us, the electorate. That cannot be allowed to happen. So, big breaking news. Lammy in a world of trouble. Right, for the next half an hour, I'm very pleased to be joined by the author of Israelophobia and Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself. Also a prolific columnist, especially in The Telegraph, and in my view, arguably one of our most powerful Jewish voices, pro-Israel voices in this country. Jake Wallace-Simons, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Now, first of all, there's several issues I'd like to talk to you about. But first of all, this is the question on the table is the Islamification of Birmingham. Tomorrow night, there is planned a massive pro-Palestine march to coincide with Aston Villa's Europa League tie game against Maccabi Tel Aviv. Now, as we know, controversially, fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv, have been banned from attending this match in a decision that many feel is kind of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. Would they have done the same if it was Palestine United? I doubt it somehow. But this match goes ahead, fans not allowed there, but there'll be this, they think there may be 300,000 people at this march tomorrow night. 700 coppers will be monitoring it, so it's quite an event. Now, last night I spoke to a guy called Ahmed Yaqub. He's a lawyer, and he is one of the organisers. I'll play you some film of him as well. Well, first of all, Jake, I've got a few bits of film to play you, but your reaction to what's going to happen tomorrow night, because I asked this guy Ahmed Yaqub, I said, isn't this just some sort of explosion of Jew hatred, of anti-Semitism? This is against Tel Aviv playing this game at all, because they say no Israeli teams must be, all sports must be allowed to compete in anything. And I said, well, what has Israel done wrong then? Oh, they've committed genocide. I said, no, they haven't. No, they haven't. That is there's a legal definition of genocide which Israel has not reached. So you cannot just say, because you don't like Israel, that Israeli teams have to be banned from all over the world. Your thoughts about tomorrow night?
It's really worrying, and it's a sign of a problem that's been brewing for generations, obviously linked to the pace of immigration into this country, which has not allowed for assimilation. What we've ended up with is Birmingham and other towns, villages, cities around this country effectively harbouring a culture within a culture, whole communities of people who might have been born in Britain but don't really show any allegiance to Britain or any affinity for our values, our way of life, our traditions or our customs. Indeed, they show an animosity towards it, a hatred towards it. And you've got to ask yourself, what they've won, haven't they? They've got the Tel Aviv fans banned from Birmingham. That's a victory to them. Why the mass marches? Why? Why are they taking to the streets? Why the need for so many police officers to deal with this unrest? And the reason is that it's a show of strength on the streets. These people, of course, they hate Israel and they hate the Jews, but they also hate Britain and British values. You know, I note that whenever you see a march against anti-Semitism or a march in favour of Israel, when there are some in Britain, you always have the British flag flying proudly alongside the Israeli flag, because Jews and our supporters are deeply patriotic for this country. You know, my Jewish grandfather fought at D-Day, as did many other Jews of his generation. Whereas when you see marches that are supposedly about Palestine, you don't see a single Union flag. All you see is hatred and animosity towards the statue of Winston Churchill, towards the Cenotaph in London, towards the Union flag. They really hate Western liberal values and everything that we stand for, and I'm afraid that this is a problem that's only going to get worse and more violent as time goes by.
Indeed. Now, last night I spoke to this guy, Ahmed Yaqub. He's a lawyer. You may remember him. For a brief time, he represented the Manchester cop beaters. He drives a Lamborghini. Anyway, his viewpoint was that Israel should be banned, or Israeli sports teams, in fact, the Eurovision Song Contest, representatives of Israel should be banned from everything all over the world, basically because he doesn't like Israel. Now, they've got the right to protest, I suppose, but to have a look at him, this is him talking about, he said to me, Muslims have a sacred belief that they are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. I said, well, do you think that arguably those Muslims, those Hamas Muslims who invaded Israel on October the 7th a couple of years ago and massacred 1,200 innocent Jewish people, do you think that arguably they might be breaking this sacred tenet that Muslims cannot be anti-Semitic? Have a listen to him. You just told me that it's sacred to Muslims that they cannot be anti-Semitic. What would you describe those Hamas Muslims who invaded...
What would you describe as 1948?
Well, no. Why are you going to answer my question? Are you going to answer my question?
All those people...
Well, they're not exactly being...
Those people from their homes...
Well, the peace and harmony that you talk about wasn't exactly in evidence, was it? On October the 7th.
1948, there was no evidence of people being displaced from their homes.
Do you want to go back further? 1848, 1748?
There's no evidence of that.
Yeah, so do you defend October the 7th then?
So are you telling me there's no evidence?
Do you defend October the... Tell me about October the 7th. What are your views on it?
What do you want me to tell you about October
Ahmed,
7th?
what are your views on October the 7th? What do you think?
October 7th was a terrible attack.
Okay. And didn't really demonstrate that sacred tenet that you told me about Muslims who are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. Wasn't kind of a celebration of Muslims not being anti-Semitic, was it? What happened on October the 7th? The massacre of 1,200 innocent Israelis.
Kevin, let me tell you something. If you live in a house and you let in a stranger, and that stranger then takes over your house, kills your whole family, but leaves your son.
Okay, so you're saying that you're saying October the 7th was justified. You're saying October the 7th was justified then?
No, I'm just explaining a simple.
Yeah, no, you're trying to justify October the 7th.
I didn't mention October 7th.
Yeah, he didn't like to talk about October the 7th, did he? I mean, what do you make of that kind of line of argument there, Jake?
Well, he's obviously not very bright, is he? That's the first thing that comes across. Secondly, his understanding of history is pretty patchy and selective. But third, I think, and most worryingly, it was very striking at how you had to drag an opinion out of him about October the 7th. I mean, you and I, and all right-thinking people, have no hesitation about condemning out of hand the atrocities that were committed on October the 7th, the murders, the rapes, the mutilations, the necrophilia, the kidnap. That was all just beyond imagination, and we should be able to condemn those out of hand. And if you can't, you have to wonder why. And he seemed to be engaged in some attempt to justify October the 7th by saying some sort of convoluted metaphor about Israel being the root of all evil for having stolen a house or something. But, you know, I can't look into his heart and divine whether or not he is an anti-Semite, but throughout history, the way that anti-Semites work is that they characterize Jews as evil. Jews are the source of all evil in the world. Jews were the Christ killers in the Middle Ages, the source of all evil because they killed Christ. They were an inferior race in the 20th century, the source of all malevolence, therefore had to be exterminated. What do you do with a Jew who is the source of all evil? The only thing you can do is ban him, marginalize him, murder him, torture him. That's all you can do. And so the anti-Semitism begins with characterizing Jews as evil. And I'm afraid that we see that once again in the form of Israel being characterized as evil, as demonic, as the source of all evil in the world, totally out of all proportion to the reality, built on lies. And that justifies this kind of hatred and bigotry levelled at Israel these days. It's just the newest form of the oldest hatred, I'm afraid.
And the local MP at Aston Villa, for the constituent list that includes Aston Villa, it's called Perry Barr. His name's Ayub Khan. He's one of these independent MPs who basically is a member for Gaza in Westminster. But he you know, suddenly takes this great interest in football hooliganism. So did Jeremy Corbyn. They got together this petition saying these, you know, troublesome Tel Aviv fans must not be allowed into our area, as if it's some kind of Muslim enclave. And Jeremy Corbyn taking an interest in football hooliganism for the first time in his long career. And there's something sort of disconcerting about their belief, certainly Mr. Khan's beliefs, apparent belief, that this is an area not for Jewish people. The West Midlands Police kind of enshrining that and just saying, well, we can't guarantee safety. I think the West Midlands Police should have made it their extreme priority to make sure Israeli fans could come to this game, because that's about freedom, that's about liberty of football fans to watch their team play. If you can't let people do that, then you are infringing their basic human rights. Now, have a look at this quick, in terms of this march tomorrow night, Jake. Have a look at, here's a couple of, few of the people who will be participating.
6th of November, it's game over for Maccabi Tel Aviv and Israel. Protesters are coming from all over the UK peacefully. We're going to protest with our families and let people know the frustration that we have. Israel should not be in FIFA. There's over 30 organizations that are involved, and the numbers are going to be huge.
Absolutely. My message to those right-wing extremists and the barbaric Israeli supporters who are supporting Maccabi Tel Aviv, that the city of Birmingham and moreover Aston is the home of lions.
Lions, and we will not just remain silent when genocidal complicits come in and play football in our city. Remember that. I urge all the youth to be peaceful and not to cover their faces on that day. We want to send a clear message of peace and justice.
Birmingham is united against Israel. Okay, game over for Israel on 6th of November.
Remember that.
Game over.
Game over.
Thing is, Jake, you know, these people seem to believe that their beliefs are, you know, all powerful. Israel hasn't broken any international laws. It is not guilty legally of genocide. And therefore, these people believe Israel should be banned from everything, essentially because they don't like Israel. That cannot be allowed.
Yeah, it's chilling. It's chilling. I mean, they put a good spin on it, saying that we're only peaceful and we're not going to cause any trouble, to kind of put people off the scent. But what they're really saying is that we own the streets. And Britain needs to ask itself, the police needs to ask themselves, government needs to ask itself, who owns our streets? Who runs our police? Who rules in this country? Who sets the laws? And who decides who abides by those laws? As far as I'm concerned, it's perfectly legal for Israeli fans to come and watch a football match, regardless of what people in the local area may think, or how racist they may be, how anti-Semitic they may be. Britain is not a racist and anti-Semitic country, but there are pockets of racism and anti-Semitism in certain parts of our country that's been imported, I'm afraid. Those attitudes have been imported from the Middle East. and are taking root in our country. You know, Israel is not, as you say, engaging in a genocide. Israel is a liberal democracy fighting to defend itself against a jihadi enemy. That is the reality. And we need to ask ourselves if we are comfortable with parts of our city, parts of our country becoming a no-go zone for Jews, for Israelis, on the say-so of some people who wish to take to the streets peacefully or otherwise.
Exactly right. Now, we're going to break in just a second, but I've got to put this interesting story to you. Today, the children from a primary school in Sutton Coldfield, which is very near Birmingham, basically part of the Birmingham conurbation, if you like. Mere Green Primary School, it's called. They enjoyed a lovely school outing, a day trip to the Science Museum. The parents and carers of all these kids were sent this letter by the school to the Science Museum and the Royal Albert Hall they're going to today. They went today. I hope they had a nice time. It said, "Dear parents, carers, we're very excited for our trip to London this Wednesday. Please read these quick reminders to help the day run smoothly." It then goes into the times and all that. Then it says, "What to bring? Small backpack with packed lunch, drinks and light snacks. No nuts, no coconut." That bit's fair enough. I think that's to do with allergies. And then, check it out, no nuts, no coconut or pork in lunches, please. And then so on and so forth. No pork. Now, to which I would say, why would all children be banned from taking pork in their packed lunches? Now, we got in touch with Mere Green Primary School and said, this is all very strange. Can you explain it? This was their answer. A message shared with parents and carers on a private platform earlier this week incorrectly stated that packed lunches should not contain pork. This was simply an unfortunate human error. At Mere Green Primary School and all schools within the Arthur Terry Learning Partnership, whatever the hell that is, all meat products, including pork, are among the wide range of foods available as part of our daily school menu and can also be bought on school trips and visits. This was a genuine error. They're very keen to stress they made a mistake here. This was a genuine error, and we would like to apologise for any confusion or upset that this may have caused to the families of our children. Our schools are diverse, inclusive and committed to supporting the needs of all children and families. That's from the communications manager at Mere Green Primary School. But, I think we know what happened there. This is what happens. If we are worried, as I think many of us are, about Islamification, this kind of human error, ordering all kids not to include pork in their packed lunches, is going to slip in more and more, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing how often the same sort of mistake seems to be occurring these days. I think we need to be quite careful about drawing a distinction because obviously, Orthodox Jews don't eat pork. Various other, Hindus don't eat beef, some of them. Yeah. Different religious minorities I agree with that, yeah. Have their own observances and lifestyles and traditions. But the thing is that most of these minorities are patriotic towards Britain and live peacefully, abiding by the law and integrating. Now, that is the case with some Muslims, of course, and I think we need to recognise that you can be Muslim and British without any contradiction, and, Muslim soldiers fought and died for our country in both of the world wars. Of course,
absolutely.
But I think we also need to recognise at the same time that there is a dominant part of the Muslim community which is influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood and other extremist groups which don't seek simply to coexist and assimilate. They seek to take over. They seek to exert their force gradually by increments over the generations, as is their ideology, and gradually subject Britain to Sharia over time, to Islamification. Now, this is not me saying this. The government, 10 years ago, in 2015, commissioned a report into the Muslim Brotherhood by two very senior civil servants and security experts, which came to this exact conclusion and named the Muslim Brotherhood in Britain as a threat to our national security and social cohesion. absolutely nothing was done about it over those last 10 years. The Tories tried to ban it, then gave up, didn't do it. Nothing's been done. As a result, we see this organised attempt to gradually dominate our country, not by jihad and violence immediately, by incremental political manoeuvring, by the show of force on the streets, resorting to jihad if it's necessary as a last resort at some point. And that's what we're being subjected to. It is not about decent Muslims who wish to integrate. This is about an Islamist force seeking to exert its strength and take over our country over the generations. And we need to wise up to this before it's too late.
Yeah, there's something going on, and you're quite right. When I talked about that school and the banning pork, well, that human error about banning pork, you're right. It could. We talked about this in the office. It could refer to Jewish people, but you know, we're talking about the Birmingham area. I think we know where we're coming from, and my guess, I'm speculating. My guess is it's a Muslim member of staff who thinks that you know, pork should be banned for everyone and didn't quite realise, but. It's just something that's quite eye-catching and something that I think is going on more and more, particularly in the Birmingham area, where essentially tomorrow night as many as 300,000 pro-Palestinian marchers will effectively say that Aston Villa and the Perry Bar area of Birmingham is a no-go area for Jewish people, and that it's quite right they'll be banned, and that, to my mind, is not acceptable. When we come back, Jake, let's talk about, but with a change of tone, let's talk about Dawn French, shall we? That next.
You know, what we see now is almost like 5-year-olds chasing a ball around a pitch, rather than actually setting out a strategy and saying, right, we're going to deal with local communities. And I think that's one of the key aspects around, you know, why do we feel less safe in our local communities, is because one of the issues is we don't see police officers walking around our local community.
Absolutely.
You know, my sister last week had her car really badly damaged by somebody who stopped, but he had no MOT, no anything else. So she calls the police, can you come down and look, you know, investigate this and how it helped me? No, we'll just send you a form.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with columnist and the author of Israelophobia and Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, Jake Wallace-Simons. Jake, you tweeted about this. Let's do this in chronological order. Dawn French in June, the 6th of the 6th to be precise, posted this.
Complicated. No, but nuanced. But, you know, bottom line is no. Yeah, but, you know, they did a bad thing to us. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, but no. But we want that land and we don't know, you know, got history and we got, you know, no. Those people, not even people, are they really? No.
So she's referring there to the Middle Eastern conflict, Israel and Gaza, talking about the October the 7th, as if to say, well, you know, stop moaning about what happened on October the 7th. They did a bad thing. No. Well, she's come a long way since the Vicar of Dibley, hasn't she? And I think what's surprising, because that post on social media, Jake, caused a widespread offence, not just amongst Jewish people. A lot of people found that very offensive and thought, what is typical sort of showbiz, you know, we don't like Israel much, we love Palestine. So very offensive to many people, which makes it all the more surprising, I think, that what is essentially a Jewish company, Marks and Spencer's, has retained the service of Ms. French for its latest Christmas TV commercial, because she's been doing this for some years. Many of us thought that after that June post, perhaps they might think again and get some other celebrity, but no. Have a look at this.
Driving home for Christmas, yeah. I can't wait to see. Oh, how long have we been here? Oh, I know. Ooh, hang on, Frenchie. And... here we go.
I'm coming, cannabis! Sorry.
Ow! Oh, Fairy, yes, please. We're closed. Really?
We're open!
Apparently. Oh, look at these lovely prawny things.
They're M&S Black Tiger Prawn Paella Bites.
Just help yourself if you'd like to. That's it, you have. Ooh, fish chips and peas.
Do you have any fondue?
No, Twinkle.
But I do have this delicious, pork and mushroom pate by Tom Kerridge.
Rod's gone mad. This is not just food. This is M&S Christmas food.
Well, Jake, good to see the standard issue lady in a hijab there, celebrating Christmas. Always the same, isn't it? But Marks and Spencer's didn't really get the memo on Dawn French, did they? I'm surprised that they've retained her services.
Well, Kevin, first of all, I can't believe you made me sit through that entire nauseating advert.
I know, we've done Marks and Spencer's a big favour as well, haven't we, inadvertently?
I hope you didn't lose any viewers turning off during the middle of that. But yeah, I mean, you know, look, it turns the stomach, really. I mean, clearly it reinforces the message that, you know, in this day and age when it's unacceptable to offend anybody, any minority group, everyone's hypersensitive about everything, there's one group that you can target with impunity, and that's the Jews. And I'm afraid that's the message that comes across. But, you know, Dawn French, I mean, that video that you played of her minimising October the 7th, dismissing it, putting on that baby voice as if it was nothing more than a little bad thing that the Israelis are complaining about. I mean, that's just the most depraved video that I've seen in quite some time, and it's shocking in her total denseness, frankly. And one can't help but think that if Dawn French was around with her phone during World War II, she would have made a similar video saying, oh, Hitler, you know, invaded Poland, got death camps, he's a tyrant, he wants to take over the world and invade Britain. No. Don't bomb Germany. You know?
Exactly right.
That, frankly, there's only one message which needs to go to M&S from all right-thinking people, and that's M&S, no. Don't do it again. Pull the ad. No, it can't happen.
Exactly right. And since we're on the subject of your excellent social media post, just a quick word before you go, Jake. You posted about Mamdani, the new communist Muslim mayor of New York. Nothing wrong with him being a Muslim, of course, but he is a communist. He wants to defund the police. He doesn't want to send anyone to jail. He wants kind of free food bodegos all over Manhattan. And you posted a picture saying what could possibly go wrong. And this in a town like New York, a guy like that as mayor of New York, it's going to be a catastrophe. And we know a lot of the poor New Yorkers' pain, what they're about to go through, because of course here we have Sadiq Khan. Good luck to the poor people of Manhattan, eh?
We have Sadiq Khan, and we have Keir Starmer, and we have Rachel Reeves, which we might as well have had Jeremy Corbyn, frankly. I mean, you know, Mamdani, it would be very interesting to see whether he actually governs according to the policies that he laid out while campaigning, because they're just ridiculous nonsense on stilts type policies with free stuff for everyone, free apartments, like you say, free food, free buses, no police. You know, what could possibly go wrong, as I said? And of course, everything underpinned by a real hatred for Israel. He said that he got into politics not because of New York, but because of Israel. That was his reason for getting into American politics, weirdly enough, talking about serving foreign interests. So, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether he actually is ideological and fanatical enough to roll out those atrocious policies which are going to turn New York into some kind of, you know, Leningrad, or whether he's actually going to wise up and be clever and water down those policies so that New York isn't such a disaster, which gives him the chance of then making his way further in politics. Well, in the words of the song, I think there may be trouble ahead. Jake, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. That's Jake Wallace-Simons, author of Israelophobia and Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, and an excellent columnist. He really does a lot of stuff for The Telegraph. Highly recommend it. Great writer and a powerful voice, I think you'll agree. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about a Syrian sex attacker, which brings once again into sharp focus the worry, the fear, the concern of the people of this country as more and more asylum seeker migrants get convicted of or charged with very, very serious crimes. We'll talk about that next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Get on the phone, by the way. Let me know. There's the breaking news. We told you just after 8 o'clock that all three major opposition parties, the Lib Dems, the Tories, and the Reform UK, in a rare moment of unity, have all called for the upcoming recess of Parliament to be cancelled, and for David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, Deputy Prime Minister, to be brought back to answer very serious questions about how a second asylum seeker sex offender has been mistakenly released, this time last Wednesday from Wandsworth Jail, an Algerian. He's still on the loose. Earlier today at Prime Minister's Question Time, Lammy just obfuscated and refused to answer questions. Now, people in the Commons, the MPs, saying, well, you deceived us. You deceived the House. We are the representatives of the people, therefore you're deceiving the people. This is serious, folks. Let me know what you think. I think they're right. I think that recess needs to be cancelled, Parliament needs to be recalled, and Lammy and the gang, for that matter Keir Starmer as well, need to answer very serious questions about this. A second asylum seeker sex offender has been mistakenly released from jail for the second time in less than 2 weeks. This is a shambles, folks. 03444 991,000. Still with asylum seekers, we're going to play you some footage of the chilling moment. A Syrian asylum seeker follows a woman out of a nightclub and went on to follow her in Cardiff, the Welsh capital, and then sort of sexually assault her, but along the way kind of strangling her and then sexually assaulting her. So while we look at this, let's talk to the director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Evening, Kevin.
Yeah, well, this is a guy called, he's a Syrian refugee called Fawaz Al-Samu, and he went to a nightclub in Cardiff and clearly basically scoped out his victim. Look at this, there he goes, there he goes. So there he goes, he follows her out of the club, and she didn't even know this, and he later grabbed hold of her, strangled her, and then sexually assaulted her. He's admitted this offence and awaits a sentence. But he's also going to be deported, they say, after his conviction at Newport Crown Court. Actually, he's got 37 months in prison for sexual assault, and after that will be deported, so we're told. Doubtless, Robert, he'll probably be accidentally released within a couple of weeks. But seriously, once again, this throws into sharp focus the growing concern among the people of Britain that all these people, these asylum seekers, these migrants, many of whom come across the Channel illegally in small boats on the back of lorries, that we just put into asylum seeker hotels and give them free food and all that and make them feel welcome. We don't know anything about them. And a growing number of them are either convicted of or charged with very serious offences like the one we're just talking about now. And don't forget, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, we had a poor guy, Wayne Broadhurst, in Uxbridge to the west of London. The suspected or charged with murdering him in a frenzied knife attack turns out to be an asylum seeker who arrived here 5 years ago on the back of a lorry, but was later allowed to stay. So more and more concerns surrounding the fact that we just let in more and more of these people and we don't know anything about them. This is chilling watching this. Look at him just following her out and then down the street, and after that the rest is very, very chilling history. This is getting, I think we're reaching a kind of crisis point, aren't we?
I think we reached it long ago, and if you look at even in the last 12 or so months, pretty much every local authority in the UK has at least one incident akin to this one. I think it's really indicative of just how chaotic the asylum policy that the Conservative government and the Labour government have really caused huge damage to communities across the country. I think actually the most telling part of this whole tale is that apparently when mitigating, he didn't even acknowledge that he had done anything wrong. And I think that really shows actually that a lot of these individuals are coming from places around the world with very different attitudes towards women and girls, and they perhaps don't see that their actions are in any way actually incredibly offensive against the law and immoral. And unfortunately, we now have 180,000 individuals or so having crossed the English Channel, many of them from Afghanistan, many of them from Syria, many of them from Libya, all countries that the data shows us have a far higher conviction rate for sexual assaults than British men. Unfortunately, we have adopted this policy of, rather than detaining these individuals that have broken into our country, putting them in hotels, putting them in HMOs, right in the heart of communities, and they've been given free rein to, unfortunately, commit these kind of heinous crimes. And actually, if you went to most market towns, most cities around the country on a Saturday or a Friday night, you'd unfortunately see similar sort of behaviours being demonstrated of individuals from these hotels sort of loitering in the corner of bars, loitering in nightclubs, because they know sadly, that these opportunities that they do seem to be taking advantage of do present themselves.
You're right. I mean, they come from often Middle Eastern, Sub-Saharan Africa. They come from very different cultures to us, and time again, when these guys, from places like Syria or Eritrea or Ethiopia, Afghanistan especially, when they're charged with these very serious sex offences, their defence is, well, we just didn't realise, I come from a different place, didn't realise that you take this sort of rape and sexual assault matters so seriously. We didn't know. They really don't seem to, some of these guys who are charged with these offences and then convicted, don't seem to understand that is not, just groping a woman that you fancy is not acceptable in this country, that it's against the law. That is the problem, this cultural schism between our forms of behaviour and what they see as acceptable behaviour.
Well, absolutely right. And you honestly, there are innumerable case studies now of how this sort of unawareness of actually how you should behave properly as a man, kind of across the country now, sort of individuals using translation apps to tell women very sort of graphic sexual acts that they want to conduct on the individual, sort of men apparently claiming that groping a woman whilst they were delivering food to their door was not inappropriate because in their country of origin it was somehow a sort of appropriate way to say goodbye. There is a litany now of case studies, and it really is a case of different cultural and social attitudes. You made a point earlier that I want to pick up on as well. I think the idea that actually this individual will be deported very swiftly or in the foreseeable future is sadly very remote. He's come from Syria. I think what we will see is when the time comes to remove him, he will be launching an endless procession of human rights claims that are removing him to his country of origin and will actually somehow endanger him or breach Article 3 or Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, and thus the process will be delayed. And this is why we've got now nearly 20,000 foreign national offenders from around the world who have committed really, really awful crimes, served custodial sentences. They've not been deported because they launch appeal after appeal after appeal, and instead what the authorities have done is put these individuals right back into the communities where they committed their offences. And you actually wonder why sort of the British public are losing faith and trust in politicians and in institutions when this kind of risk we are being exposed to almost on a sort of seemingly daily basis at this point.
Yeah, and of course Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood made a big song and dance about getting that guy Hadush Kabatu, the Ethiopian Bell Hotel Epping guy, who was mistakenly released after that. Oh, I pulled every lever, I moved heaven and earth, and I got him out of this country really, really quickly. He was from Eritrea. With which we have a returns agreement. So it's returns agreements. It's easy to get them back. The trouble is, for most of these countries, we don't have returns agreements. So we will see what happens to our Syrian friend there. But I think you're probably right. He'll probably come out and then start launching human rights cases and won't be deported. Can I just ask you a quick question going outside your specialist area? But this is concerning. This is to do with the rape gang scandal. Hundreds of grooming gang cases are now being reviewed under a sweeping new police initiative called Operation Beacon Port. So far, 1,273 cases which were just discarded by the police. No further inquiries are necessary, no further action, NFAs as they call them. 1,273 cases have been identified that could be reopened, with 236 of them deemed to be a priority. This adds up, I think, to egregious failures by 23 police forces across England and Wales. And the National Crime Agency Deputy Director Nigel Leary said that this mass scale letting down of these poor vulnerable white girls who deserve justice, he said, these cases that got improperly dropped, they appear to be potentially down to human error. Well, that's not really good enough, is it? And what we're talking about is what went on for many years, where the authorities, the police, the local councils, teachers, social workers all deliberately turned their backs and let this carry on, this rape gang scourge carry on, because they didn't want to be accused of Islamophobia. So they're beginning to try to make amends now, but it is exposing the horror of the fact that so many people in authority just turned their backs and let this happen.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, there are way more than the cases that they've actually reopened that actually need to be reopened. Second of all, the idea that this is actually just a human error suggests it's a kind of a administrative slip-up. It's a kind of email being sent before you've put you're sincerely or anything like that. Actually, what we are dealing with here is real cultural problems in every single police force, pretty much every single social services department, local authority around the country, where people have been really concerned and really scared to address the issue and call it what it is, for fear of being accused of racism, for fear of facing some form of professional backlash as a result of it. And that's actually being generous. We know, for instance, in some areas, in Greater Manchester in particular, actually, it's a lot more nefarious than it just being a kind of cultural problem and a sort of a need to be nice and culturally sensitive. Actually, what it really is complicity in some parts. And this is why what the Labour government are doing when it comes to the national inquiry is nothing short of scandalous, because it is failing to get to the bottom of these problems, failing to get to the bottom of the sheer complicity that some individuals in authorities do have in this absolutely hugely important national scandal that has gone unaddressed for far too long.
Yeah, and the Labour government are guilty of what all the authorities have been guilty of for so many years. They do not want to point the finger at the fact that the majority of these rape gang members who drugged, abused, raped, treated like animals, thousands of vulnerable young white girls, mostly white girls, many of them underage. The fact that these men were mostly Muslims of Pakistani heritage. The authorities still trying to avoid that, and that, as you say, Robert, is a scandal. Good to talk to you, mate. Thank you very much for your time. Robert Bates, Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Let's go to break, and we've got time to squeeze in a couple of phone calls after that, so stick around.
Don't forget, we are competing against, I guess if you're growing up in Britain, right, you're competing against kids from other countries where hopefully this educational vandalism isn't happening, but also kids here are going to be competing against kids from whose parents have sent them to private schools where this educational vandalism won't be happening, where they will be learning reading, writing and arithmetic, where they will be being tested to the very highest levels, and they're the ones who are going to succeed.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
We'll be taking more calls in about 25 minutes or so. After the 9 o'clock news, we're going to talk about the new New York mayor, Zoran Mamdani. He says he's a socialist, he's a communist. He's also a Muslim. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but some of his policies, shall we say, don't particularly, I would suggest, suit that centre of capitalist mania, if you like, New York. It is one of the most capitalist cities in the world, Wall Street, etc. They've now got a communist for a mayor. Some of his policies are ridiculous. We'll talk about that after the news, and of course he hates Donald Trump. First, let's take a quick call. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie.
Good evening, Kevin. Oh, what a day, what a day.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Madman Lammy hasn't got a clue. All he's doing is putting a fear of God into us because we can't trust the prison services to keep the prisoners in prison. They're letting them out with open arms, saying, "Thank you very much. Here's your money. Bugger off and go and get your training."
Well, they're letting I think it's thousands now, certainly hundreds of prisoners, dangerous prisoners, out early officially. But now we're discovering, with a kind of monotonous, worrying regularity, they're letting prisoners out by mistake. I think last year's tally was 266, but in the last 2 weeks, we've learnt 2 today. One was an asylum seeker sex offender, and 2 weeks ago, of course, they let out that other asylum seeker sex offender, Hadush Kabatu. So it's getting ridiculous.
But Kevin, we put the government in power to look after us. They're not doing anything. All they're doing is making excuses for their mistakes. They must admit they can't manage the country. They can't run the country. They're out of control themselves. They're fighting between themselves. And we're the ones that's paying the price, and we're the ones that's in danger. We can't walk down the streets feeling safe any longer, or go on the train any longer feeling safe. I'm sorry, Kevin, it's gone beyond the joke now, beyond the joke.
I agree. And what did you make of David Lammy's performance today, standing in for the Prime Minister? I mean, he would not answer that question. The Tories, James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary, just say a straight question. Have there been any more asylum seekers accidentally, mistakenly released from jail since Hadush Kabatu 2 weeks ago? I assumed that Lammy genuinely didn't know, but it turns out he did know. He's known since last night. So he deliberately refused to answer that question. So he tried to cover up and keep the House of Commons in the dark about this calamity. And by extension, that means he keeps the people in the dark. They're the representatives of the people. And now serious calls for Parliament's recess to be cancelled, for Lammy to be brought back, for government to be brought back to explain all of this, because that wasn't good enough, what we saw today, was it?
No, Kevin, I mean, to say the size the man's become with all his luxury travelling and food he seems to have and spending on and everything else, you know, for God's sake, the man is not fit for purpose. He really is not fit for purpose. We are struggling to survive. We are struggling as a country to keep ourselves safe, to try and make life, you know, bearable for everybody. But when you're walking around in fear, I've got grandchildren who are fear for their safety. Believe you me, I do, Kevin. And I feel for the rest of it, especially...
It's getting... I think we're at sort of critical mass with the incompetence of this government. It's so worrying. Everything that ever happens, it's down to the Tories. Oh, shut up. We've had enough of that. Really worrying. Totally agree with you, Herbie. And thank you once again for another great call. Herbie from Harrow, always a good caller there. When we come back, as I say, we're going to talk about Zoran Mamdani, the new communist mayor of New York, who's got some very bizarre ideas about how to run Manhattan. We'll talk about that next. Take your calls a little after that. Stick around, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I say, in about 20 minutes or so, we'll take your calls. 03444991000. Big story of the day. David Lammy's lamentable performance at the dispatch box for Prime Minister's Question Time today, standing in for Starmer, where he refused to answer a straight question 5 times. Have there been any more accidental mistaken releases of asylum seekers from prison since the Ethiopian Hadush Kabatu was released accidentally 2 weeks ago? Have there been any more? The truth was there have been. In fact, on last Wednesday, accidentally, mistakenly, they released from Wandsworth Prison an Algerian sex offender, and he remains on the loose, a free man. So very worrying. Lammy, he was asked 5 times by James Cartledge, the shadow Defence Secretary, has this happened? You know, have there been any more releases? He refused to answer, and Parliament's now furious. All 3 main opposition parties, the Lib Dems, the Reform UK, Tories, rare moment of unity, are all agreeing cancel recess. We need to talk to the government. We need to talk to Lammy, he's the Justice Secretary in charge of prisons. If you like, we need to talk to Keir Starmer. We need to get this out in the open. So let me know what you think about this, because this is a calamity, So 0344 499 1000. Also, let me know what you think about the BBC and Donald Trump. The BBC, this is the biggest crisis so far. I mean, the BBC seems to lurch from crisis to scandal, from crisis to scandal. Tim Davie, who's been the Director General, £547,000 a year he earns. He's been the Director General since 2020, 5 years. 5 years of disaster, to be honest with you. So we've had the scandal of Gary Lineker's constant posts. The chief news anchor, Hugh Edwards, turning out to be a paedophile, a predatory paedophile, to be honest with you. Then, of course, there was the Gaza documentary that they put on without telling us that the narrator, the teenage narrator, was the son of a Hamas government official, the Deputy Agriculture Minister, to be precise. They didn't tell us that. So they had to apologise for that, pull it down and everything like that. So there was that. And of course, Bob Villan and his anti-Semitic death to the IDF chants at Glastonbury, which the BBC just showed us, and then left Bob Dylan on the screens for another 40 minutes. Everybody, oh, we made another mistake, terrible, terrible mistake. So once again, that. And now this, that the President of the United States has been misrepresented on Panorama last October. Trump a second chance. They spliced together, they doctored Trump's fairly well-known speech that he made in 2021. He just lost the election, didn't really accept that, said it had been robbed from him. So he made this speech, January the 6th, his famous January the 6th speech. Panorama made it look as if he was calling in that speech for violent insurrection, essentially saying, why don't you, storm Capitol? Yeah, violent insurrection. He didn't do anything of the sort, but they made it look like that. Now, that is very, very serious. Very serious. And it's likely that the president will sue Britain's state broadcaster. So surely, let me know what you think about that. And surely Tim Davie, the Director General, and I would suggest Deborah Turnus, the £431,000 head of news, both have to go. 0344 499 1000. Let's take a call. Let's talk to Joan in Sunderland. Hello, Joan.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. What would you like to say, Joan?
I agree that Parliament should be, the recess should be cancelled. I think David Lammy was an absolute disgrace today. And I also was watching that Home Secretary's face, and I'm quite sure she knew as well and sat there stum. I'm not happy with the Speaker because I'm beginning to think that man is biased. And to be quite honest, this country is unrecognisable. Everything is going wrong, and it's just a disgrace. You can't depend on justice, you can't depend on Parliament, you can't depend on the police. The BBC, I hope President Bush...
President Bush? President Trump, I think, is the one you mean.
Oh, yes. President Trump. Yes, I hope he sues the BBC because they are an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, I think heads have got to roll this time. I think the Director General, Joan, Tim Davie, he must go. And also the head of news, Deborah Turnus. If you put together those two people's salaries, it comes to pretty much £1 million. So those two people alone are costing us, TV licence payers, £1 million a year. And they're both useless at their jobs. They both presided over this ongoing catastrophe of biased reporting, and in Tim Davie's case, scandal to scandal to crisis to scandal to crisis. On and on it goes. They need a clean sweep, don't they? They need new people at the top. Would you agree with that?
They do, but where's Lisa Nancy? Why doesn't she?
Yeah, it's about time she said so. I agree with you, yeah.
I mean, she's silent on this situation. She's an absolute waste of space as well. They just get away with murder. They're just abject failures, the whole lot of them.
Yeah, and when you talk about Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker,
Yes.
I mean, to be fair to him, he's doing his job, and there don't seem to be any rules in Parliament to make the people at the dispatch box answer straight questions, and there should be. I don't think, what service was the nation provided with what we saw today? James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary, 5 times asking a straight question, essentially saying, have any more asylum seekers been accidentally released from prison? And 5 times Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, Justice Secretary in charge of prison, refused to answer it. I think, Joan, there should be rules in place to make them answer these questions. What service do we, the people, get out of that? That's nothing, is it?
Well, as I say, I'm ashamed the way Nigel Farage is treated. They've only got 5 MPs. Who chooses to say who can speak and who can't? When he does speak, or any of
they all
MPs,
shout him down, yeah.
They shout him down. They're elected people to that chamber, and as I said before, have these idiots never heard of Voltaire? You may not agree with what I say, but I will defend your right to say it. You know, it's hopeless. They're just a disgrace, and to think that goes around the world, it makes me cringe. They're just an absolute shower.
That's well put. Absolute shower. That's what they are. Joan, great call. Joan in Sunderland there. We'll take some more calls in just a second. We're going to go over to America in a little while to talk about New York's new communist mayor, who's got some very strange policies. Wants free bus fares. That's all right, I suppose. He wants to sort of basically defund the place. Doesn't like the idea of sending anyone to prison at all. Not a good idea in America, I would suggest. He wants to set up like kind of free food bodegas all over Manhattan. It is a frightening prospect. A communist mayor of Manhattan, of New York, who actually hates Trump. And not keen on Israel either. So we'll talk about that in just a little while. Take some more calls between now and then. Here's a message from Zarina. She says, the idea of these people, talking about asylum seekers, these people breaking into our country and then attacking young women terrifies me. When will these people living in their ivory towers begin to realise the fear that citizens are experiencing? Polite emails to MPs do not work. Protesting does not work. What is left? Let's hope we do not end up with anarchy. Our country has fallen so far, it's hardly recognisable. Here's one from Jason in Pompey, that's Portsmouth, isn't it? Jason, it says, talking about Dawn French and the Christmas advert for Marks and Spencer's following her anti-Israel post in June. A lot of people are very upset that Marks and Sparks have retained her services. Is she still a firm family favourite? I don't think so. Anyway, Jason says, Dawn French used to be a comedy hero of mine. My friends and I can recite whole scenes from French and Saunders, but after that utterly appalling video she made, it turns my stomach when I see her on screen now. I won't watch anything she is in. Same goes for David Tennant, Robert De Niro, Emma Thompson and Emma Watkins, to name but a few. I think he means Emma Watson, doesn't he? As J.K. Rowling said with such aplomb, they are ignorant of their ignorance. Well said, Jason. Let's go to Kevin in Leicester. Hi, Kevin. What would you like to say?
Hi, mate. Last caller, what a shower.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? What a shower. That's about it. They are a shower. All of them, to be honest with you, but particularly Lammy and this catastrophically incompetent government of ours.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I've noted down a few things. It's not exactly in chronological order, but I'm just going to read it bullet points. So I'll be as quick as I can with it.
Yeah.
Mandelson, McSweeney, tax hikes, more tax hikes, pensioners' colds, everyone's skinned, no more tax hikes. So this is the back end of last year. Free stuff from Lord Ali. Gainsbury punching a constituent. Hague phone fraud. She admitted she lied. Fraud minister resigned for committing fraud. Housing minister resigned due to kicking her tenants out. I think probably going word than that exactly right, but hiking up the price for someone else to come in. The Chagos treason, which is treason. Rayner's tax avoidance. Reeves tax avoidance. Lammy just being Lammy. Lammy being Lammy again. Lammy being Lammy again. Hate speeches. Hate marches allowed. Prisoners released. More prisoners released again. China spy scandal, and Lammy lying to Parliament.
I mean, that's a great list. I'm sure there are many other things that we should cite in terms of this government. They've just screwed absolutely everything up. And aren't you sick, Kev? Aren't you sick to death? That Lammy today had the temerity to say, well, you know, all these people getting let out of prison, that's down to the Tories. Everything is down to the Tories. How long do they think they're going to get away with this for? They don't get away with it. Everybody laughs at them. It's the Tories. It's the Tories. No, it's you now, right?
They've got to start coming up with some better excuses.
Yes, that's
like
right.
You say, people are just laugh at that, and it makes your blood boil. And the Tories were bad, but
yeah, they were.
They were. I mean, and I wanted them out. And just a quick other point to that, I wanted them out. I voted against the Tories, and I've been a Tory voter all my life, but I at least thought when Labour come in, I remember when Blair was in, he bankrupted the country. We always get bankrupted under Labour. It's happened every time. But at least when Blair was in, I had a bit more money in my pocket.
Yeah, look, the thing about Blair was I didn't like probably any of his policies, but, you know, his Labour government, for all its faults, was competent. You know, Blair, I don't like Blair, but he's not a stupid man. He's not an incompetent man. In fact, he's a very efficient kind of a guy. So in those days, you know, I yearn for a Labour government that I just didn't like. As this government, of course, I don't like them because I don't like Labour governments, but this lot, it's much worse than under Blair. This lot terrify me because of their catastrophic overriding incompetence. They're useless at everything, and that's terrifying, Kev. It really is. Love your list. Well done. That's the sort of job I should be doing. But well done, Kev, and thank you for a great call, as always. That's Kevin in Leicester. Here's this is Lorraine talking about Aston Villa, you know, who'll be playing Maccabi Tel Aviv tomorrow night. And there'll be a big demo, massive pro-Palestine march outside Villa Park, where the game will unfold, minus Maccabi Tel Aviv fans who've been banned. They've been banned. So Lorraine says, congratulations to the Islamists. They now have freely taken over Birmingham and managed to ban Jews. They are now controlling the police and demonstrating anti-Semitism with impunity. Mahmoud, she means Shabana Mahmoud, is vacuous and her inactions speak reams. Powerful words, Lorraine, but I think you're right. I think you're right. You know, anti-Semitism is being allowed to unfold all over the country regularly with these pro-Palestine marches. Last night, I had that guy Ahmed Yaqub on, the lawyer, who's part and parcel of this big march. He's one of the organisers. And I said to him, so you go, he said, we're going to be peaceful. It's going to be peaceful, you know. I said, well, will you allow chants of from the river to the sea? He said, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, will you allow chants of from the river to the sea? And he sort of didn't, he sort of got round the question, but he kind of intimated, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem with that is it's anti-Semitic. It's calling from the river to the sea, when will Palestine be free? That means let's annihilate, let's get rid of Israel altogether. So that is anti-Semitic. So the anti-Semitism in these pro-Palestine marches that snake through our cities every single weekend, massive marches quite often, anti-Semitism, rampant Israel hatred, Jew hatred is sort of allowed. The police turn a blind eye in order to keep the peace. So I think Lorraine's making a good point. They are now controlling the police and demonstrating anti-Semitism with impunity. That is the Islamic community. That's what Lorraine says, and let's see what we see tomorrow night. Let's have a look at what happens. 700 coppers are ready to police that massive demonstration, all because a football team from Israel will be inside Villa Park playing Aston Villa in the Europa League. They say they think Israel should be banned from all sporting events. Why? Why? What's it done? What technically has it done? It hasn't broken any international laws. It is not actually guilty of genocide. Genocide is a legally defined crime, if you like. It's legally defined. You have to reach various criteria. They haven't reached it. So genocide is just an hysterical chant that cannot be stood up legally. They haven't broken any international laws. So why should Israel be banned from anything? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Zoran Mamdani, the new communist mayor of New York. What could possibly go wrong? That next. Stay tuned.
You know, what we see now is almost like 5-year-olds chasing a ball around a pitch, rather than actually setting out a strategy and saying, right, we're going to deal with local communities. And I think that's one of the key aspects around, you know, why do we feel less safe in our local communities? Is because one of the issues is we don't see police officers walking around our local community.
Absolutely.
You know, my sister last week had her car really badly damaged by somebody who stopped, but he had no MOT, no anything else. So she calls the police, can you come down and look, you know, investigate this and help me? No, we'll just send you a form.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, he's young, he's good looking, and he's a communist. It's the new mayor of New York, that capitalist tall city, which will be made small, many critics believe, by this rampant lefty. He says he's a democratic socialist, Zoran Mamdani, born in Uganda. Only 34 years old, as I say. Says he's a democratic socialist, but I think Donald Trump is right when he says he's actually a communist. Well, let's welcome. I mean, you know, he's a Muslim. He's a communist. It's New York. He's got a history of, shall we say, antipathy towards Israel. He's got plans like defunding the police, free food, free bus rides, free child care for everybody, and so on and so forth. It's a radical agenda that he's got, that he plans to impose on that great city, New York. As somebody said, what can possibly go wrong? Well, let's welcome to the show from the Republican Overseas Organization, Errol Moore, Coach. Welcome, Errol.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Shall we just have a little listen or look as well at his Zoran Mamdani's victory speech, where he directly approached your president, Donald Trump.
So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Well, Errol, this doesn't seem to be the right kind of guy to be in charge of a capitalist powerhouse city like New York. Some of his plans, it's as if he's in North Korea or Soviet Russia or China or something. I think this could turn into something of a car crash. And you know London well. You live here as well. You've spent so many years here. We've kind of suffered some of this pain ourselves for some time. This very left-wing Muslim mayor that we've got, Sadiq Khan. I hardly can believe I'm going to say this, but I think poor New York is going to be even worse under this guy. I mean, some of his policies are insane, aren't they?
Yes, and I think that he is going to be worse than Sadiq. I mean, Sadiq almost looks like a reasonable fellow in contrast.
You're right. It's extraordinary.
To Zoran. I mean, at least I've met Sadiq a few times. He's at least cordial, unlike Zoran, who seems to be all of a sudden code switching to authoritarian. I don't even know how to describe it, but the way that he gave that speech, that wasn't a unifying speech. And also, for the record, I don't think Donald Trump was watching, or many people on our side were watching. This was an election that was, I think, really important to understand. Native New Yorkers did not vote for Mamdani. It was overwhelmingly people from transplants from out of state and foreign-born people in the city. So demographics matter when you look at structure and change of a city. And, I'm an immigrant to the United States of America from Turkey. The last thing I want to do is change America to be anything like where I came from. I came to assimilate to this country. That just made common sense. And that was the majority of immigrants that I knew that came in, say, my generation and before. This is sort of a new thing for immigrants to come and launch an attack on the values of the country, an attack on the people who live there and denounce them as, a number of pejoratives. And I would point out that one thing that they don't have with all of their grandstanding is the real seat of power, which is in Albany, New York, where the governor is. And that's where taxes actually get decided. So you have a situation here where there's a lot of big promises. How can he deliver on them, and what will be the outcome? When you have somebody who says that we're going to make buses free, and well, that's great. Okay, sounds good. Are more people going to use the bus then? That sounds like it's going to clog up the bus system. Are you going to get new buses? How is that going to be paid for? Are people going to sit around and still pay those taxes? And here's the real big kicker. They say they're going to raise the taxes by 2% on the billionaires. Okay, well, the billionaires own all the companies that make all the stuff that you and I buy. So they're going to call the companies and say, hey, raise the prices by 4%. Now they've got their margin, and they're going to pass that on. And then, okay, yeah, they'll pay it, but it's going to be passed on costs. So it's very bizarre how it's going, but it's honestly pretty good for the Republican Party in terms of campaigning. I mean, we're going to put Zoran front and center along with AOC and Jasmine Crockett and say, this is what the left is offering you. Yeah. And I think it's not an attractive offer for the rest of the country. The demographics in New York don't match the rest of the country to such a degree that I actually don't see this as a disaster for the country, but obviously for New York City.
Yeah, and I think it'll turn into a car crash. So he wants to retrofit hundreds of schools with rooftop solar panels. He wants to not quite defund the police, but certainly remove a lot of funding from the police in the way that these people do. As you say, free bus services. He wants city-run grocery stores, one in each borough, to control food prices. Now, that's not really the American way, is it, to control food prices from City Hall? Let's have a quick look at his campaign ad on TikTok.
This evening, New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
Every politician says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here? City Hall is engulfed in corruption.
Unscientific.
The cost of living is the real crisis. New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. The slowest buses in the nation are robbing us of our time and our sanity. Working people are being pushed out of the city they built. A mayor could change this, and that's why I'm running. I'll make buses fast and free.
So I can just get where I'm going.
I'll make childcare available to all New Yorkers at no cost.
I want to raise my kid in New York.
And I'll freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant.
These Eric Adams rent hikes are killing us.
Life in this city doesn't need to be this hard. But politicians like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo want it to be this way. They care about their donors. They care about themselves. They don't care about you, the working class who keep this city running. This campaign is for every New Yorker who believes in the dignity of their neighbors. And the government's job is to actually make our lives better. We can afford to bring down the rent, have world-class public transit, and make it easier to raise a family. We can do all of that and so much more because this is New York. We can afford to dream.
God almighty. He also wants to expand protections and services for the LGBTQ plus community, establish an office of LGBTQIA plus, and ensure gender affirming care, and so on and so forth. I mean, you know, this is pie in the sky, dreamland politics, isn't it? This is a sort of ludicrous left-wing agenda that will collide with reality. These people always do collide with reality. I know that, you know that, because of the socialist government we're having to endure in Britain right now. When reality comes around and it meets people like Zoran Mamdani, there's a car crash. It just doesn't happen.
I think one of the biggest problems we have is the demographic situation with young women. You had 86% of Gen Z women voting for Mamdani. I mean, that's a really big outlier. Every other group was kind of balanced. So what is speaking to these young women to cause them to be so anti-capitalist when the majority of them are working in one of the most capitalist cities in America? Well, one interesting fact that has come out is the largest private sector employer in New York City now is NGOs. It's not finance. So you're going to start to see a lot of serious professions transition out of New York City. And you're also going to see a lot of people who voted for all of this, who as soon as these things go south, they're going to leave. they're not native New Yorkers who voted for this. So I think that's one problem. The other thing is Mamdani, if you look at his ads, they cut every 3 seconds, these sort of jump cuts. This is speaking to the Gen Z sort of mindset.
The TikTok generation, that's what it's all about.
So it's very well coordinated. And the one thing that he does have on his side is that people do struggle. Oh, there's a bug in here. People do struggle with the fact that, you know, the rent is very high and the cost of living is incredibly high, and it seems like you can't get ahead. And when you're in New York and you're making $150,000 a year, and at the end of the year you're broke, you know, all of a sudden, I mean, Peter Thiel talked about it with Mark Zuckerberg in this sort of infamous email that's been going around. Why are the young people going socialist? Well, because they're not being given opportunities. But you know what? There's tons of opportunities outside of New York. So you go to the most expensive, highly competitive place in the world and say, I can't make it here. It's like, well, yeah, you're 23. You probably could try somewhere else and come here later.
Well, maybe, you know, maybe just like do a lowly paid job and trying to work your way up the ladder like we used to all do when we were younger. Listen, we're going to play now. There's a guy called Link Lauren. He's a podcaster on Megyn Kelly's network. And, well, you know, he sort of sums up what I think a lot of people might be thinking in New York right now. You're quite right, Errol. The election of Mamdani will promote or will trigger an exodus of the rich, the wealthy, the influential. And Link Lauren perhaps puts this case far more strongly than I can. Watch this.
Well, New York City, you had a nice run, but it looks like Comrade Mamdani is officially going to be the next mayor, a guy who hangs out with a bunch of 9/11 sympathizers who are probably on the no-fly list. Mamdani is nothing more than an overgrown theater kid who's never held a real job. He's an actor who eats with his hands. That was the worst thing I saw about him. He eats with his hands, and all these like rich, yuppie, liberal white chicks who voted for Mamdani enjoy living under Sharia law, okay? Going to your Soul Cycle classes or Orange Theory covered in sheets, it's going to get a little hot under there. Now, New York City makes up 9% of the United States economy, and I imagine a lot more businesses are going to flee to Texas and Florida and other red states. But let me say this, okay? Let me say this as I sip my Diet Coke. If you guys are gonna move to our red states, don't bring your failed liberal policies and voting records, okay? If you're fleeing a blue city, don't come here and continue voting blue. Now, you guys know I'm the type of person who likes to find a silver lining to make a dark, disgusting, terrible outcome just a little bit better. And I think once people in New York experience democratic socialism, aka communism, some of them will shift to the right. Like we went through 4 years of hell with Joe Biden with open borders, crime, sky-high inflation, it's why President Trump came back on top with a supercharged mandate, okay? People said, you know what? We can't vote blue anymore, and it's why he won the popular vote in every single swing state. There's also a very high probability that all of these kids who voted for Mamdani thinking they were going to get free stuff, free this and free that, they're going to realize he can't deliver on almost any of it. Y'all thought you were going to get government issued bread lines and grocery stores and $65 million for transgender procedures. How's that going to go? Because his friends like to throw LGBTs off the roof of buildings.
Well, you know, what I'm going to say there, Errol, that's Link Lauren, who obviously goes for the shock value. I'm not necessarily saying that this programme agrees with everything he said there, but I think he sums up in an aggressive kind of a way the fears that I think a lot of New Yorkers will be having today.
I think his frustrations are valid, and it speaks to maybe he's got a little bit of a concept of history. When you look at the Islamic Revolution in Iran, the communists helped them do that. And you know what they got repaid with? A bullet in the back of the head. And so, you know, a lot of times you find left-wing people aligning with those Islamicists, and they're not going to work out in the end the way that agreement goes. The queers for Palestine or LGBTQ for Islamic law, it's incongruous. So they're being used as useful idiots, and I think they're going to find out in some ways, like the people of Dearborn, Michigan have found out, the way that direction goes when you sort of incorporate that. Now, that's not to say that New York is not a welcome city for all religions, but the rhetoric that has come out of Zoran Mamdani has been anti-Semitic. It's been anti-American. This young man, I don't want to mispronounce it. I think Lee Rigby, or the soldier who was killed.
Lee Rigby, Lee Rigby.
Yeah, he was killed by a terrorist, Islamic terrorist, and Mamdani retweeted articles suggesting that was potentially an act of war, as that guy was still in war with So with Lee Rigby. So I mean, that's just, and that's on his own Twitter, stuff like that. So that's the kind of person he is. So I don't feel bad saying that this is not the kind of person that represents what I think of. When I think of Muslim people or Arab people, I think of people who are very good at business. I think of people in Dubai. I think of people who are capitalistic, who have low tax rates.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
None of this is what I associate with Islamic values or Muslim people. So it's also an abrogation of that perspective. And I think, and I've had people reach out to me and said, what do you think this is going to mean for the Arab community, this and that? And I said, this is not very good because this is the face of the Arab community now. And this is incongruous with everything I know about the Arab community, which are faithful, decent, God-fearing people, totally. Capitalistic business owners mostly, and who want their kids, of course, to have like their values, not progressive LGBTQIAZYX values. And I think that's something that's going to, be interesting to watch from afar. And I'll say this, as somebody in Florida, I welcome all of the transplants. It will be great for the property values in Florida. You can see the poly market on that is already legitimate. Yeah. It's not just me saying it. Texas as well. Property values going up. So
yeah, exactly right. I mean, there's the two things going to happen. There's going to be an exodus from New York, just as there's an exodus from Britain going on right now of wealthy and influential people, because that's what happens when you get socialist administrations. They make it impossible or difficult for people who've got money. They leave. So that happens. And the other thing that happens is that these left-wingers who try to run countries or cities, they're so disastrous that at the end of their tenure there's a backlash, and back come the Republicans, and in this country back come the right-wingers, maybe the Tories, but more likely in this country Reform UK next time. Errol, really good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. That's Errol Moore, coach, Republican overseas guy there, based here in London but currently in Florida. Yes, he's part of an organisation here, Republican overseas. So, Mandami, communist, in charge in New York, as I said. What could possibly go wrong? Let me know. 03444 99 1000. When we come back, your calls, your messages, your WhatsApp voice notes. Much still to come. And then, after 10 o'clock, it's Harry Cole Saves the West. We make our way over to Washington for our special program from America. And then at 11 p.m., Petri Hoskin takes the helm of the Good Ship Talk and takes you through till 1 a.m. So one hell of a lot still to come. You better stay tuned to Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take your calls. I'll read some messages as well. Oh, here's one. Let's just read this. This is Ed from Sheffield. He says this is talking about the BBC and Donald Trump. Can the BBC not be taken to court and fined? If the fine was paid back to licence fee payers, it would help every one of them warm their homes this winter. Good point. Well, look, I think Donald Trump may well take them to court. He may well sue them. They won't be fined, but they will have to pay the president a lot of money. When he sued 60 Minutes, the kind of panorama program in America, CBS show, because they edited footage to make it look bad for him and good for Kamala Harris. He got $16 million, so they can be taken to court. I'm not sure about fined, but they may well be successfully sued by the President of the United States of America. Let's go to Jenny in Hampshire. Hi, Jenny.
Oh, good evening, Kevin. I just wanted to say about David Lammy. What a disgrace that man is.
He really is.
I mean, we all know that he's brain dead, and he should not be in power. He should not be anywhere near government. And to be quite honest, Kevin, I do feel the whole front bench of this government are an absolute disgrace to this country. They need to be pushed out, got rid of, because none of them have any time for the indigenous people of this country. They're going to... We were in the gutter, we're now in the drain, and they're going to take us even lower. They're a disgrace.
I think you're right, Jenny. I mean, I keep saying, look, constitutionally, I would never, like a Labour government. I didn't like Tony Blair's long-running Labour government. What was it, 3 successive administrations? I didn't like them, but, you couldn't accuse Blair and his gang of rank incompetence. They were actually quite good at running the country per se, holding on to power. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept getting re-elected. What worries me about this Labour government is, politically, I don't like them. I was never going to like them. But my worry about this government, it goes way beyond that, like yours. It's a fear, a terror of their frightening levels of incompetence. They're useless at everything.
They've got no respect for the people of this country. They're doing nothing for the people of this country. They're just doing everything for themselves and not for the people of this country. They should not be or stay in power. They're a disgrace.
Well, I think, I agree with that, except we've got to put up with them, Jenny, for another 3.5 years, unless we're lucky. There's a chance that the economy may crash to the extent they have to go to the IMF in about 2027. If they have to go to, with their begging bowl to the International Monetary Fund, I think that might be the end of them. But chances are they'll stick around, they'll dig their heels in until 29, and that is extremely worrying. Jenny, thank you. Great call. WhatsApp voice note. Here's Pete on David Lammy.
Well, Kevin, DMQs today was really hilarious. Watching Lammy flying with his arms flailing all over the place, right? What an absolute fool he made himself look. All the others on the other side, Lammy pooning him. I mean, to be honest, why is this man there as a Deputy Prime Minister? He wouldn't even do better. Actually, he wouldn't even do good as Deputy Dog, would he? Because even Deputy Dog would stop them prisoners from escaping.
Well, you're exactly right. Very good, Pete. I totally agree with you. David Lammy, I think, was a disgrace today. I mean, it's a straight question. The people of this country have a right to know if it's true that 2 asylum seeker sex offenders have been accidentally, mistakenly released wrongly freed in the course of 2 weeks. And he tried not to, he didn't try not to answer that question. He did not answer that question. To wit, all the other opposition parties are now saying, well, look, come on, this isn't good enough. We've got to cancel recess. We've got to come back and we've got to talk about this growing prisons crisis. And the fact they keep letting, it's not funny, but if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. They keep letting out, by mistake, asylum seeker sex offenders. The government's got to own up to that. They've got to talk to us about this. They can't just shut down the shutters and not say anything. That is a disgrace. It really, really is. Shall we go to the calls again? Let's talk to my friend Tarquin in London. How you doing, Tark?
And you are now listening, ladies and gentlemen, to the de facto flagship best radio show on talkTV.
Absolutely. What do you mean de facto? What do you mean de facto?
Oh, everyone at the Off-Communist Society are listening to that, and they can stick it in their pipe and smoke it up yours.
Very fine regulatory board, which I respect very much, and we're going to leave it at there. What would you like to say, Tarquin?
Right. Lammy today brought Parliament into disrepute.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no doubt about it. On a serious note, how dare he treat we the people that way by completely disregarding the genuine, legitimate questioning of a legitimate, elected member of Parliament. And like you said earlier, come to think of it, Kevin, Lindsay Hoyle, what a disgrace he was to Parliament today.
Well, the thing about Hoyle is I've had my ups and downs with old Lindsay. He gets very, very prickly if you suggest... if you dare to suggest that he might be biased in favour of Labour. He is a Labour MP, of course.
That's right.
He gets very, very prickly about this. But he loves, he does seem to like the sound of his own voice. He's almost as bad as Burqa. No, if you don't be quiet, I'll have to have you removed from chamber. No, you cannot carry on like that, and so on and so. He loves all that. He loves all that. But, as the rules stand, I suppose I've got some sympathy for him. But I think that after what we saw today, and we see it time and time again, Keir Starmer never answers a straight question. None of them do, those front benchers. So I think we must be moving, or we ought to be moving to a point where the rules are changed so that Lindsay Hoyle can step in and say, you've just been asked a very straight question. Please answer it for the sake of the members of Parliament here who represent the people of this country. They deserve an answer to this question. As things stand, in fairness to Hoyle, he's not allowed to do that because the rules allow our front bench politicians, particularly the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, to just avoid the questions, refuse to answer them. Lammy today, that's not right. He knew that a second asylum seeker sex offender had been released. He knew from the night before because the Met Police knew, and yet he wouldn't admit that. And that's just wrong. It's fundamentally wrong.
It is. It's almost as if there should be an equivalent of almost a contempt of court ruling, whereby they have to say something, not just obfuscate, which they clearly do, like you say. But it's an insult to us as a voting democracy, isn't it? If they treat us that way, they don't. If we can't get straight answers to this, Kevin, then it's just a complete charade. Isn't it?
You nearly said it, didn't you? Don't worry, it's getting on. It's late. It's past the family viewing watershed. But anyway,
keep up the great work, Kevin. You're doing a brilliant job. We love you.
Thank you, Tarquin, and thank you for the call. Always a pleasure. Let's move on to another one of our favourite callers. She is the one and only great Georgina of London. How are you doing, Georgina?
Hello, Kevin. It's fabulous to talk to you. I was watching earlier with that Jewish gentleman that you were interviewing.
Jake Wallace-Simons, you mean? Yeah.
What a lovely chap he is. And I was watching, you put a clip on of three gentlemen from...
the pro-Palestine marches, yeah.
Now, I watched that, and I was absolutely horrified, because if that had been the other way round, and it was Jewish people saying the same about not having the Muslim fraternity in Birmingham, they would have been having knocks on their door, Kevin, by the police and probably taken away for questioning. Now, I don't know what the heck is going on in our Great Britain at the moment, but what we do need is politicians who are not afraid to speak out about this elephant in the room. This is the Islamification of our country, and I, for one, don't want it. So we need people to be able to stand up and shout our corner in Westminster without being jeered at by other weak politicians who are afraid of their own shadow and are more interested in votes and box ticking rather than addressing the veritable time bomb that's been ticking in the bosom of our country. I mean, Kevin, we've allowed both this government and prior governments to import tens of thousands of foreign nationals from polar opposite cultures and with medieval ideologies that have no interest.
There's something, Georgina, quite worrying, I think, going on in Birmingham. The kind of subtext of this march tomorrow night is, this is a Muslim area. It's quite right that Israeli football fans have been banned from this Birmingham club, Aston Villa's match against Maccabi Tel Aviv. And this is our territory, and it's a Jewish no-go zone, and so on and so forth. There's something going on there, and we've got to be worried, I think.
There's something definitely going on, and let me tell you, there's no such thing as a Muslim area. This is Britain. This is the home.
Well, there shouldn't be. Put it this way. I mean, tell that to the people of Tower Hamlets, and tell that to the people of some areas of Birmingham. I know exactly what you mean. There shouldn't be, kind of pure Muslim areas, Islamic areas, but there sort of are, and that's the problem. But this march tomorrow, I think, is quite disconcerting, to say the least.
Well, I'm very worried. I'm very worried about it, Kevin. I don't think they say it's going to be a peaceful march, and I pray to God that it is.
Yeah, I mean, they do keep saying it's going to be peaceful, so let's keep our fingers crossed. They've got a right to protest, that's the right to protest. That is their sacred democratic right, but let's hope it stays peaceful. Georgina, thank you very much for another of your excellent calls. Let's go to Paul in Liverpool. Hello, Paul. You want to talk about Dawn French?
Yeah. Do you know what all the crazy comments, and lots of them do it as well. Does money and fame send these people into a world which?
I'll tell you what it is, Paul. It's showbiz people. There's a whole kind of trail of thought among the entertainment industry, actors, comedians, dancers, all these people. They just all tend to be extremely pro-Palestine and basically anti-Israel. Dawn French, I think, is clearly symptomatic of that.
But her audience, Kev, right? Even if
what audience? She hasn't got one anymore.
Why would you want to damage your career knowing that, okay, listen, I think like this, a load might not, so do you know what, why not just shut it?
Because she didn't. I don't think she really thought. I think she thought that was a perfectly okay thing to post. A lot of people very, very offended by it. But that's showbiz for you. Paul, I've got to go. The show's nearly over. Good to talk to you, mate. Thanks for the call. Paul in Liverpool. Yes, that is it for another night of the Political Asylum. Been an amazing show, very busy show. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've enjoyed your company. I hope you found mine vaguely acceptable. I'll be back tomorrow for more of the same, for another edition of this show. Harry Cole Saves the West is next. That's all the way from Washington. And then Petri Hoskin. Stay tuned to Talk, folks.
You know, what we see now is almost like 5-year-olds chasing a ball around a pitch, rather than actually setting out a strategy and saying, right, we're going to deal with local communities. And I think that's one of the key aspects around, you know, why do we feel less safe in our local communities, is because one of the issues is we don't see police officers walking around our local community.
Absolutely.
You know, my sister last week had her car really badly damaged.